Traffic begins to heave on University Boulevard, where two of the state's most important universities are located. We see the exterior of a small but modest apartment. Inside, there is a young man who has just woken up to start his routine for the day. He is part of the surprisingly 87% of students who do not live in dorms. His name is Andrew Ferrandez, a 24-year-old Full Sail student. He wakes up at 8 a.m., takes a warm shower, prepares breakfast, brushes his teeth, and now he is ready to start his daily life as a film student. So tell me, Andrew, why you don't have a roommate?
I used to have a roommate a while ago. I used to go to another school before I came to Full Sail, and we had it was a good experience. We had a lot of fun. We got to know each other really well, and we're still pretty good friends today. So it wasn't like an experience where we hated each other. But when I came here, I decided it might be a good idea to learn how to live by myself. So I chose to just come down here solo and go from there.
And why did you decide to pursue this career in film?
Well, when I was a little kid, I believe I was probably like 10, 11 years old, I used to watch football all the time. I still do. And I absolutely fell in love with not just, football itself, but all the behind the scenes and all the shows, how they work, how they're made, everything like that. So from a young age, I got into the side of the filmmaking of football, and even now it still hasn't changed.
Do you think it's necessary going to film school to have a solid career in film?
Sorta. I sort of do, I sort of don't. I feel like nowadays, unless you're immediately plugged in, you kind of have to go to film school to be able to have a successful career, or at the very least help launch said successful career. But I do think if you're able to get yourself in a position where you're getting on a lot of shoots, doing a lot of work, doing a lot of good work too, not just doing things to do them, but doing something with a purpose, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I mean, there's plenty of famous directors out there who never went to film school, but in today's day and age, I definitely feel like it gives you a leg up.
So, what has been your biggest challenge at Full Sail?
Honestly, I would say maybe the biggest challenge is just adapting to the way this industry works versus a typical college where you have your 4 classes for 3-4 months and then get a little break and you reset. Here, just like the real world, there's not really much of a reset. You have your class all month. Sometimes you're in school every day for hours on end, and then the next day you go over and do it all again, and at the end of the month it's the same exact thing. I think that, like I said, I believe the biggest challenge is just adapting to the schedule and that lifestyle, because for some people it can really burn you out.
So, what are your plans for the future?
Shit, I don't really know. I have ideas. As I mentioned previously, I would love to work at NFL Films one day, but I also love television, and I love, movies. I would love to be able to just work on possibly as an editor for a television show, or maybe eventually working at NFL Films as an editor. I would say that's probably where I would like to be, yeah.
So, what is exactly your dream job?
The exact dream job would be definitely working at NFL Films, whether it's on the sideline filming the games, or the person in the studio, or really not really the studio, but the person behind the scenes cutting up the film and putting it together for some of the TV shows that they play on NFL Network, or even what they do with HBO for the Hard Knocks.
What have you learned so far being a Full Sail?
Uh, I would say for me, and I don't mean to keep going back to the same thing, but I feel like I've just learned more of how to adjust mentally to the rigors of this kind of job. Knowledge-wise, I don't mean to sound like a dick or anything, but because there's plenty of things I've learned here that I for sure did not know beforehand. But I feel like for me, skill-wise, some of this stuff I already knew how to do, a handful of I did. It's more of, I feel like Full Sail does a very good job of taking the skill set you already have and helping you build upon it versus just teaching you something brand new.
So, what is your biggest fear professionally?
I would say wasting my time, you know, like I would hate myself and I'd hate the whole situation, so to speak, if I came here to the school for the amount of time that I am here and end up doing nothing.
So, do you have any advice for the future film students?
My advice for future film students is try not to be too full of yourself, and because if you're coming out of high school, if you're like 18, 19 coming out of high school, I've seen it here and there, and it's not to necessarily call out any classmates or anything like that. I'm sure we've all seen it. But someone who's like, oh, I worked on this, I did that, I did this. It's like when no one really cares. And it's something I've heard from the instructors a lot. It's like we're all young, we all really don't know what the hell we're doing. So just kind of come in with fresh eyes, and if someone tells you, hey, you're doing this wrong, or hey, you could do this better, don't be like, well, I worked on this thing before and I worked on that. Just take the advice and don't take yourself too seriously, you know. Be open to taking advice from other people and just learning.